Hi Danville, Alan Shields here, Chief of Police for the town, and we are 10-8 and in service to all you, which means we're here to make people's lives better by safeguarding the lives, rights, and property of everyone we serve. This is a live show, so if you have a question, go ahead and throw it in the chat. If I can get to it during the show, I'll get to it during the show. But I'd also like some comments here. I actually have a "You Are the Cop" scenario, and I'm going to play it a couple of times, and then we'll cover it at the end. But watch this video. And imagine that you're the officer that gets called to the scene of this traffic accident and you happen to have this video in play. There isn't an accident in the video, but let's use a little bit of imagination and let's pretend that this accident occurs. What you're going to see is the perspective of a cyclist as they're moving forward, and you're going to see a car that is on Paraiso near the crosswalk at Iron Horse Trail, and you'll see a jogger come from the left of the screen. And so just watch what happens and then throw it in the comments as to who do you think would be at fault. We all know who gets hurt the worst, but who would actually be at fault for this accident? So you see the van, and there's the jogger that comes in, and the van swerves out of the jogger's way. I'll play it one more time real quick, and then we'll play it again towards the end of the show, or towards the middle of the show here. But you can see the van in the upper left. You'll see a jogger come from the trail. The van swerves out of the way, and the jogger pauses. That would have been a very, very bad accident. We've seen them before. We had one either last week or the week before on Greenbrook near the Iron Horse Trail involving a bicycle. And in that case, it just so happened to be that the bicycle was traveling the wrong way and was ultimately at fault for the collision. So I would just ask you if you have any thoughts on that. What do you think? You're the officer in that scenario. What do you see? We're going to cover a lot today. We're actually going to have a pretty good discussion about fentanyl. So if you had questions or concerns about fentanyl, we're going to cover them tonight. And I will give you, I want you to leave with 2 points, and that's all. So just pay attention for those 2 points. But if you want to come out and see us, we're going to be out at Coffee with the Cops at Christy's Donuts, April 29th, and we'll be there from 9 to 10 a.m. We're actually out at Starbucks Reserve downtown today, and it was a pretty good showing. Had quite a few people there, some of the natural traffic, but then also some people that came out specifically for the event. Really good to see all of you that come out for that. And actually had a very good, there was a lady that had lived in town for 45 years, and she shared with me a story about how her house got burglarized 10 years ago. And she felt the officers did a very poor job. And I would, by her account, I would actually have to agree with her. She said the officers came out, they didn't dust for prints, they didn't check for DNA, no cameras, no neighborhood check and all that. So if everything is as she says, which I wouldn't have any reason to doubt her, we should have done better on that day. And I believe that we do better today. And typically if a home is broken into today, we do try to look for evidence that will tend to prove who did it. It could be a shoe print in the mud. It could be something that the person may have handled. And so we do try to make sure that that we do collect those evidence, and we do have a lot of solves. And that 10 years ago, we had about 119 burglaries, both residential and commercial. Last year, we were around 28. So we've done a good job at focusing in on those and reducing those. And so for me, when we go to those Coffee with the Cops, like at Starbucks Reserve, right, I think now it's actually going to be not a Reserve, it's the regular Starbucks now. You know, it's good for me to get that feedback, because then I share those stories with the people that are here, and I'm like, hey, this is how it impacted that one person. This was the one time in 45 years that she's been a victim of a crime, and she didn't feel that she got the service that she deserved. What I will say is that many times it is not a lack of the officer's work. A lot of times what I see when I get complaints about officers not doing good follow-up or follow-through, it's usually not the case that they didn't do a good job of investigating the crime. What we tend to, and I'm self-admitting here, what we tend to do poor at is we tend to not to communicate back to our victims and the people that we should be communicating with what's actually happening. And we do work on that, so I'm committed to that. So if you want to join us, come join us. We'll be over at Christy's Donuts on the 29th. So join us there. If you've got unused medication, so if you've got a pill bottle with some pills in it that you no longer want, we're going to have a drug take-back day. You can always come down any day during our business hours, so Monday through Friday, while we're open, you can come down, and we've got a bin that you can put it in. But if you want to come by, you can actually go to the Danville Town Offices April 30th, so we're giving a weekend day on this one. From 10 to 2, you can come by and you can drop off any unused medication. And we would encourage you to do that if kids get a hold of this and accidentally take it, or if it gets abused, it's bad. And actually, I'll kind of demonstrate for you here. All you got to do is you stick it, you take a plastic bag, you take the pills, you stick the pills in the bag, you dump it in the container, and that's it. And ultimately, what you end up leaving with is you leave the drugs at the police department, you take your pill bottle with your personal information on it, and you take that with you, and you take it home. But please, let's keep it out of reach, locked up when they're at home when we need it, and when they're no longer needed, come bring them down to us, and we'll make sure that they get destroyed. And if you want an opportunity, you can come on the 30th, and we'll do that. So that's, again, April 30th, 10 to 2 at the Danville Town Offices. All right, let's look at crime, Danville, and let's see. Well, let me see. Did anyone have any answers to the question? So Yuri says, and this is the question was, we played a video of a near-miss accident, and Yuri says it looked like the jogger didn't slow down and look for traffic. The driver didn't seem to slow down approaching the crosswalk. Perfect. And Judy says, while pedestrians always have the right of way, they do bear some responsibility as well. Same for bicycles, and you're absolutely right. All right, so let's keep those coming. I'm going to play the video after we talk about the crime for a little bit, but let's move on to the crime. All right, as usual, communitycrimemap.com is where we upload all of our data to, except for some selected offenses like sexual assaults. But if you want to see what's happening in your neighborhood, feel free to go to communitycrimemap.com, and you can also set up alerts to see what's happening in your neighborhood. All right, for Part 1 crimes, April 4th through the 10th, we had a shoplift at the Walgreens on Danville Boulevard. And ultimately, we were able to determine that a rental car was used by the suspect, and we're still investigating and following up on that case. On April 6th, we had a license plate and some tools, not tolls. We had some tools that were stolen from the truck on Diablo Road. And then on April 9th, we had a residential burglary at a house on Hillside Road. And then we had a purse that was stolen from an 81-year-old lady at Costco. And again, this is the one that we've been warning everybody about, and it is when there's someone has a shopping cart and they leave their purse inside the cart as they're unloading their groceries, or we've even seen it where they put the purse inside the car, and the person either goes into the car and snatches the purse, or they snatch it from the shopping cart. Even though this case is a misdemeanor, what we realize is that it's a significant case, so we've actually elevated it. One, because the lady that was a victim was 81 years old, and that's horrible in and of itself for someone to target someone so elderly. The second is we know it's happening at Costco. Costco has seen thefts that are very unique as far as the purse snatch, so we are very aggressively handling it, and we want to make sure that we catch those people and hold them to account for what they did. As far as accidents, let's take a look at the accidents. Again, they're on that downtown corridor for the most part. You can see a couple of outliers, one at Crow and Communitas, and then one in the Greenbrook area. But we had two injury and 4 property collisions. That is a significant number. We did have 1 hit and run as well. So we'd remind people, please keep the cell phones out of your hands and see what we can do to minimize those collisions. All right. I'm going to show the video one more time, and then what I want you to do is, as you watch this video, remember, you are the police officer, so you're seeing this near miss collision, but let's just say that a collision did occur. You're the officer. Who would you find at fault and why? And put your comments in the comment section there. So you see the van come up, and from the left you can see the jogger approach in the crosswalk and swerves, and the jogger stops. So had the van not swerved and the jogger stopped, we could have probably had a pretty significant collision there. So you are the cop. What do you do? All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about fentanyl. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid, and it is used, it's got a lot of medical uses. They use it in surgery. It's a painkiller. They'll use it post-surgery at times. but it is one of many synthetic opiates, but it is the strongest, and it's the one that when we spoke to the DEA and they actually came to Danville and gave a presentation, they said they're seeing a significant rise. And at one point, I believe in their presentation, they even said that in 2021 alone, there was enough fentanyl seized to kill everyone in the United States. I mean, that it is that powerful of a drug. But let's take a look at it. And I've got some slides here. I normally don't use a lot of slides, but I think the graphics are extremely compelling. And I believe the photos that you see will be pretty significant. All of this information is sourced from the DEA, and they regularly publish papers on the fentanyl, all the drugs, but specifically fentanyl and how much they're seeing, the overdose statistics and all that. So I would encourage you, go down in the description for the show, and there is a link to the DEA's One Pill Can Kill website. Very, very interesting, and I want to make sure that you get that. All right, so let's look at overdose deaths. Overdose deaths in 2021, there were over 100,000 drug overdose deaths last year. 28 involved psychostimulants, primarily methamphetamine. 64% involved synthetic opioids, and that's going to be primarily fentanyl, and that's what we're going to concentrate on today is the fentanyl issue. And again, in 2021, the DA seized enough fentanyl to kill everyone in the United States. That is shows you how powerful of a drug that is. But let's look at how much fentanyl is an overdose amount. And this is a pretty interesting graphic if you look at it. On that head of that pencil, just on the lead of it, is a potentially lethal dose. It only takes 2 milligrams of fentanyl to be considered lethal. It's 50 times more potent than heroin and 100 times more potent than morphine. Now, I know you saw it on the head of the pencil there, but think about it from a sugar packet. If you were to take a sugar packet and rip it open, sugar packet is about a gram. There's 1,000 milligrams in there, so two 1,000ths of that. So 2 little crystals of a sugar packet would be enough that could potentially kill. Now we know that if you're on a treatment dose, then that lethal dose may be a little higher. But for someone that has no, that is not already using it, it can be a lethal dose at just 2 milligrams. So that's a significant figure there. So what the DA is seeing is they're seeing fentanyl being used in counterfeit pills, and it's being used because it doesn't take as much fentanyl per pill to produce some kind of a high, and it could be in any type of pill. It's not necessarily in a fentanyl pill. A dealer may call it something else, and so they're seizing pills that look like they're legitimate pills, but they're counterfeit pills, and they're putting fentanyl in those pills. So let's look at some of the most common counterfeits. You'll see OxyContin, you'll see Adderall, and Xanax, and those are pills that we see a lot of times that are legally prescribed. And I think the big takeaway is, it's okay to be treated and use these drugs for treatment, but if you are not receiving that drug from a doctor, you should never take it. It is too hard to tell if a pill is real or fake. And the downside of taking a fake pill, or a pill that you believe to be good and is fake, is far too risky. It's just not worth it. Let's take a look at what some fake pills look like. See if I can get it to publish here. Okay, so on top is the authentic oxycodone, and on the bottom is the counterfeit. Now, if the pill was standing by itself, I don't know that you could tell the difference between the two. I'm sure our friends at the DEA could, but your normal person might not have a shot at telling what that is. And let's look at a Xanax pill. So authentic Xanax on the top, counterfeit on the bottom. And then let's look at where a pill is made. So this is a medical grade fentanyl laboratory in the United States. This is where the DEA is finding those pills being made overseas, or actually south of the border. Let's look at some statistics real quick. So in 2017, the percentage of tablets containing 2 milligrams or more of fentanyl were 10. That percentage jumped to 14, 26, now 42. So think about that. Your odds of having a potential lethal dose, 2 milligrams, is 4 out of 10. So take 10 pills in your hand, 4 of them are potentially lethal. And the example that was given, and it's actually a pretty good example, is the chocolate chip cookie example, and I actually happen to have one right here. So, you know, if this is that fake pill that was made, the milligrams are these chocolate chips. And so on the surface, it may look like there's 1, maybe 2 chocolate chips in there, but you don't know if you flip it over, there's another 3 or 4. So how many milligrams are actually in that fake pill that you're getting? And are you willing to risk this chocolate chip cookie, this fake pill, to get that relief? Are you willing to risk your life to take that pill because you don't know what's inside it? And the fact that the lethal dose per pill is on the increase is, I think, pretty significant. So the 2 things, one is, and I was pretty happy because we put this presentation on, and when I say we, I mean I really didn't do any of it. The DEA agent did, and one of our agents that was assigned to the DEA, one of our partners down in San Ramon, put it on. And the 2 things are that I really want you to take away is that only 1 pill can kill. It only takes 1, and that you never know what is in that pill. You don't know how many milligrams are in that fake pill. So just remember that it only takes 1 pill can kill. The DEA feels so strongly about the risk involved with fentanyl that they've issued a PSA on this. And if you look back, I looked at their website, they don't issue that many PSAs. In fact, I think the last one they issued was probably about 10 to 12 years ago, and it was when fentanyl was first being seen on the street. And so that is how strongly they feel about this. I do have a suggestion, though, and I want to share a little bit of a personal story. I had a relative that was going into a surgery, and the doctor wanted to prescribe my relative some pills for when they went home, some opiates. And I was like, hey, I don't think that'll be necessary. And the doctor actually then offered naloxone. He said, well, would you like a naloxone? And I was a little taken aback, and I said, hey, wait a minute, we don't abuse pills in my house. I would never need that. And for those that don't know, naloxone is something that can reverse the overdose symptoms of someone that's having an opiate overdose. So at first I was a little offended. I was like, hey, wait a minute, I'm a good ethical person. We wouldn't do that. Well, how silly of me. How not smart of me to think that. And then I had a quick reversal. I was like, wait a minute, actually, yeah, we will take that. Because why not have something on hand that should someone in your family have a bad reaction to an opiate, that you can save their life? And the DEA has a great deal of statistics on their website where they've shown opioid overdose reversals, tens of thousands of them a year. So this is not a bad thing. All of our officers that you see on patrol carry a kit with them, a naloxone kit, and they're able to administer it. And we've actually, I think, just from memory, we've done it at least 4 times where people have been completely unresponsive. We've administered the naloxone, and it's revived them and brought them back. But I do want to suggest that you do your own research on this. I would suggest that if you have opiates in your house for one reason or another, if you have a pain management program, or maybe you just had surgery, I would suggest that you have this. And what I like to do is actually play a video from the American Medical Association to just show you from an educational standpoint how easy it is to use naloxone and how beneficial it can be. So let's watch this video.
Narcan nasal spray is an emergency treatment for a known or suspected opioid overdose. Narcan nasal spray is not a substitute for emergency medical care. As with any drug, you need to be aware of important safety information concerning its use. If you encounter someone who is unresponsive and you suspect an overdose, first shake their shoulders and shout their name.
Kevin.
Ask if he or she is okay.
Hey, Kevin, can you hear me?
Check for signs of an overdose. Seek emergency help right away. Narcan nasal spray is not a substitute for emergency medical care.
I'm with somebody who stopped breathing. I think they've had an overdose.
Administer Narcan nasal spray as quickly as possible if someone is unresponsive and an opioid overdose is suspected. even when in doubt, because prolonged respiratory depression may result in damage to the central nervous system. Lay the person on their back to receive a dose of Narcan nasal spray. Remove Narcan nasal spray from the box. Peel back the tab with the circle to open it. Remove and review the printed quick start guide inside the package. Hold the Narcan nasal spray with your thumb on the bottom of the plunger and your first and middle fingers on either side of the nozzle. Do not press the plunger to test or prime the device. If you do, you will waste all or part of the dose of medication. Tilt the person's head back and provide support under the neck with your hand. Gently insert the tip of the nozzle into one nostril until your fingers on either side of the nozzle are against the person's nose. Press the plunger firmly to give the full dose of Narcan nasal spray. Remove the device from the nostril after giving the dose. Move the person on their side after giving Narcan nasal spray. If possible, put their hands under their head and bend their upper leg forward. This helps prevent the person from rolling onto their stomach. This is known as the recovery position. Continue to watch the person closely. If they do not wake up or respond to your voice or touch, or if they do not seem to be breathing normally within 2 to 3 minutes, use a new Narcan nasal spray to give an additional dose in the other nostril. Acute opiate withdrawal symptoms may occur from use of Narcan nasal spray in patients who are opioid dependent. Symptoms include body aches, diarrhea, increased heart rate or tachycardia, fever, runny nose, sneezing, goosebumps, also known as piloerection, sweating, yawning, nausea or vomiting, nervousness, restlessness or irritability, shivering or trembling, abdominal cramps, weakness, and increased blood pressure. When the emergency is over, put the Narcan nasal spray back in its box and throw it away in a place that is away from the reach of children. In addition to watching this video, please read the quick start guide that comes with Narcan nasal spray before using it. Talk to a healthcare professional if you have any questions about how to administer Narcan nasal spray. Please read the indications and important safety information that follows. Store Narcan nasal spray at room temperature between 15 to 25 degrees centigrade. Do not freeze Narcan nasal spray. Keep Narcan nasal spray in the box until ready to use. Protect from light. Replace Narcan nasal spray before the expiration date on the box. Keep Narcan nasal spray and all medicines out of the reach of children.
Okay, I think you get the idea from that. It is very simple to use. There is no negative side effects. If the person's not having an overdose, it doesn't cause harm. So it is a good tool to have. I'm telling you, we've used it here in Danville on people in Danville. Yuri has a good question and asked, what ages are we seeing? Typically, what we have seen is we have seen it within people that are using opiates recreationally, not for pain management, but recreationally, and it's in the early adults is what I would say, the 20s, in that kind of an age group. We have not, personally in Danville, anecdotally, we haven't seen it there, but I don't have readily available the state or the national statistics on that, but I can just tell you anecdotally what we see in Danville is it's usually in the early adulthood. Okay, so we have another question. Let's see, it was from Marissa. I'm trying to scroll and find it. Marissa asked, well, first off, Marissa states that she understands all the precautions with her purse and to take care of that. And the precautions would be, if you don't need it on the shopping trip, maybe consider leaving it at home. I know a lot of people do this where they keep a credit card and the ID in the wallet and they keep this in their pocket. When we think about that crime triangle, about motivated offender, hardest one to control, we think about the item that's likely to be stolen. How do we keep that out of sight? And then the third, which is what Marissa is talking about, which is our site or our area. How can we control that? And Marissa, unfortunately, what we're seeing that the whole parking lot is in play. And what they're doing is, it appears, based on how they're driving around the parking lot, is they're actually looking for the victim. All right. That's why they're not picking on the 6'8", 280-pound guy carrying a backpack. They're picking on the 81-year-old lady because she's seen as an easier victim. And so what we're seeing is they're targeting the person and the behavior. And so it's not necessarily where you park. Although I will say, typically, if you're right in front of the store where there's lots of traffic, you're less likely to be a victim because there's more natural surveillance, there's more people. And when there's more people around, people that are motivated to commit crime are less likely to do it because there's more opportunity for someone to intervene and for them to get caught. So if you're in an area where there's more people traffic, you're less likely to be a victim. Okay, so Joanne, thank you so you said Thursday around 6 or 7. Joanne had a very specific question about an accident if the person kept driving. I'm going to have to look that one up. I apologize, I don't know, but what I'll do is I'll look it up when I get off here, and then I'll try to find that answer and put it in the chat for you. Okay, so we've got some good ones. So some people say the driver's at fault. Some people say that Val says the driver's at fault. Looks like he is speeding. We don't know he or she on the van. But looks like the person is certainly speeding. That may be the case, but let me remind you, when you're viewing things through a camera, it's not, the ratio isn't the same. Sometimes on those wide angle lenses, things can look like they're traveling faster than they are because everything is compressed into a smaller view. So I would caution that. And if you look at the fact that they passed a cyclist, and cyclists usually go between 15 and 20 miles an hour. Some of the real fast ones maybe go 25. But you know, speed may not have been a factor. But here's what I'll say: crosswalks. And so let me play that video one more time so we can kind of lead in with that. So watch this video. You're going to see the van. You're going to see the jogger come in from the left, and the van swerve and move out of the way. So here's what I'll say, and I'm going to give my guess as to what probably actually happened in this case. The law says that a driver has to yield to a pedestrian that's in the crosswalk. And then the next section will say that a pedestrian has a responsibility not to suddenly jump out into the roadway. And I would say certainly if you're jogging at, you know, anywhere from 8 to 12 miles an hour, that's moving quickly. Now, think about this. Next time you're in your car, and this is going to be my, and so to sum that up, the person jogging most probably would have been found at fault in that. And really what we should do is exactly what Yuri, one of the first suggestions is, as drivers, when we come up to crosswalks, we should be slowing way down. We should be doing 10, 15 miles an hour slow, really look, because frankly, we've got a lot of kids in our neighborhoods. They're using the crosswalks. They're on bicycles. They're on scooters. You should assume that there's going to be a child trying to cross at every crosswalk and treat it as such. That's just good defensive driving. If we're on the trail and we're jogging, riding our bike, pushing a stroller, there's a stop sign there. You are supposed to stop, look both ways, and proceed when safe. Once you're now in the crosswalk, oncoming cars need to yield to you, but the road is theirs first. It's the pedestrians second. So you're not supposed to jump out into the road in front of a moving car. Here's what I'll say, what I feel probably happened in this case. And when you drive, next time you drive, I want you to pay attention to this. There are pillars in your car. The front ones that go towards the front of the car, where your front door swings open, that's called the A pillar. The one right by your head is the B. And then the one to the rear is usually called the C pillar. That's your third pillar. I would be willing to bet that the driver never saw the runner, because as the runner is moving closer, the B pillar is going to block the view of that runner the entire time that they're going up. If you just Google A pillar blind spot, there's some videos out there that will recreate that effect. But it could be a cyclist, it could be a runner. Sometimes it can, depending on if you're driving a big truck with a big A pillar, you may not see, think about it, you've got something this big in your sight line that's traveling left to right from this way and right to left on your right side. They create huge blind spots. What I tell new drivers is, as you're approaching intersections, as you're driving around, you need to be moving your head a little bit side to side and front to back so that you cover those blind spots. We've seen crashes where you can't say for sure, but it looks like that A-pillar blindness really did come into effect. So if we know that's there, and we know we're coming up on a crosswalk, the best thing you can do is slow for that crosswalk. If you're the jogger or the cyclist, slow for that. Let's not ever put the officers in a decision where they have to decide who was at fault where someone went tumbling over the hood of a car. All right, so I'm going to check and see if we've got any other questions here. And I appreciate all the comments and feedback. And if you like this show, please just hit the like button, maybe forward it on, maybe post it on your page, let people know. And if you want more information on overdose, again, I encourage you to go to the DEA's website. There's a link in the description. If you want to share that with everybody, I think we really do need to push the information out there. We've seen a lot of overdose reversals, which is really, really good. We don't want to see the overdose. We try to prevent it, right? That's the area we should spend most of our time, but we really want to be prepared in case that happens. So I would encourage you to share that Narcan video or the naloxone video. Okay, so Christine has a question. She says, can we get Narcan to have on hand for people we suspect of having a fentanyl reaction? Absolutely. And so, Christine, I would say if you have any suggestion of that, the prescribing doctor can co-prescribe the opiate. So it doesn't have to be fentanyl. It could be something a lot smaller, and they can prescribe the naloxone with it. So you can get both at the same time, and that's good. You can also go to the pharmacy and what I've seen is they will actually sell it to you there as well. But the easiest way to get it is just go through your doctor and get it. So Joanna says, I would add that there are many pedestrians who run with earbuds in and can't hear vehicles noises around them. It would make even more important for them to stop at the stop signs and all crossings. So that's good advice. And I would say they should always stop, whether they're wearing earbuds or not, stop at the stop signs. But the earbuds, if you've got two in your ears, and I know that some of these now are the noise canceling type, you put them in. I mean, you can ask my wife. I can be working on a project that I'll just walk right by her and I won't hear a word she's saying. And so it is very dangerous. If someone's saying stop, look out, or you hear a car accelerating towards you, you'd want to know that. That's why when you see on the going up Mount Diablo, there's a sign that says can't have two headphones, two earbuds in. And that's not just for cars. People think that's only for cars. That's also for cyclists. If you're on the roadway in a vehicle, which a bicycle is a vehicle, and all vehicle code violations are in play. For bicycles, you have to follow that one as well. So, Joanna, that was a very good addition there. All right. So it looks like that's it for the questions. I have one outstanding question. I'm going to jump off, and then I'll answer that. But if you want to come see us at Christy's Donuts. We'll be there April 29th between 9 and 10. We're usually down there with a few of us. Christy's has been an excellent host over the years. And again, April 29th, 9 to 10. And then we are hosting a DEA drug take-back April 30th from 10 to 2 at the Danville Town Offices. So April 30th, 10 to 2, Danville Town Offices. That's just right upstairs at 510 Gonda Way. But anytime we're open, Monday through Friday, you can come to the front counter, package up your medicine in a little Ziploc bag, throw it in the bin, and we'll take care of it for you. We'll make sure that it gets destroyed. All right, looks like that's all we have for tonight. We're 10:10, which means we're off duty, but we're always 10:8 in service to all of you. Thanks, Danville. Have a good night.